clunker trade-ins. Here's Angie.
Thanks, Andrea. Well, how did a 38-year-old father go from teaching the Bible to 7th graders to winning a Super Bowl ring? New York Times best-selling author and Pulitzer Prize winner Jeffrey Marx tells the amazing story of a man who did just that. The book is called The Long Snapper, A Second Chance, a Super Bowl, a Lesson for Life. Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we see a lot of books out there about football players, but this one is different because instead of focusing on the star quarterback or even the star coach, it is focusing on an obscure but vital player.
Brian Kinchen is not exactly Tom Brady or Bill Belichick or one of the big name guys when he was with the New England Patriots, but his story was just remarkable. Here he was, 38 years old, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, teaching a 7th grade class, and his cell phone rings in his pocket while he's teaching. Had no idea who it was, but it was the New England Patriots with 2 weeks left in the 2003 season. Their long snapper had been injured, and Belichick wanted him.
I know, and what's so amazing early on in the book, you talk about these 7th graders. He announces it to the class. They are ranting and raving, going crazy.
A free-for-all.
And the whole time he's thinking in the back of his mind, he's in this world of blindness. That's the word I believe you used in the book. They don't really, he can't see himself how others see him. This story really transcends sports and teaches life lessons.
Well, there's the sports narrative, which is the story of a guy who goes in 7 weeks from being a 7th grade teacher to a Super Bowl champion and being part of the winning play in the Super Bowl with 9 seconds left. But beyond that, as you're saying, it really becomes a story about the true measure of a man. Brian was chasing something. He didn't know exactly what. He ends up getting this affirmation, this validation, this stamp of success in the form of a Super Bowl ring, but ultimately, without giving away the ending, it becomes about something a lot bigger than who he is.
And really interesting stuff throughout the entire book. Bob Lay from ESPN reviewed it and said that this would make marvelous fiction. But
well, yeah,
the fact that the accounts are real makes it even a greater joy to read.
Well, that's the thing. As a writer, as a nonfiction writer, I actually came up with a description many years ago of what I thought a great story is, and that's when it actually happens better than I ever could make it up. If I did make up this story with all the twists and the turns along the way, I'd probably get laughed out of the publishing houses.
Well, as a writer, I do have to ask this. It's a story anybody, a big sports junkie, is going to know how the 2004 Super Bowl ended.
Right.
What were the challenges in writing a story where you already knew what was going to happen? What did you find was difficult, or were there challenges at all, or was the story just that incredible?
There are always challenges, but the story carries itself. For me, the key to the telling of this story was we are taking off that mask, both literally and figuratively, of an NFL player. They wear that football mask, but we as men, most of us walk around with some other kind of mask of some kind, not just a football mask. Brian was one of these rare athletes willing to open up in a way and share with me in a way his vulnerabilities and the real journey, the spiritual journey that was going on during this 7-week period.
But even though the spirituality was such a big part of it, I mean, he struggled. I mean, he kind of had issues with his snap issues, and he really let it weigh in on him, and it was very frustrating. And he wasn't so, I guess, he didn't act in such the spiritual way that you would expect at times.
Well, he was filled with anxiety. You have to understand the job of the long snapper. It's the most obscure, unusual position in all of professional sports. You basically earn your living looking upside down at the world, throwing footballs backwards.
I was a snapper on my flag football team.
Well,
I know. Every time I mention it to people, they laugh.
But the difference is if you mess one up, they just laugh and have a good time. If Brian messes one up in the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be quite as funny. So he was having a lot of stress in the week leading up to that game. He had thrown a lot of bad balls in practice and was literally praying on the sideline with a minute left in the game. Tom Brady's taking the Patriots down the field. They're playing the Carolina Panthers. It's tied 29-29. And here's a guy you would think a professional athlete wants to be in on the winning play in a Super Bowl. Brian's over there praying that Brady gets him into the end zone so it doesn't come down to a field goal. Everyone knows the name Adam Vinatieri. He's the guy who kicked the ball to win the game. No one knows Brian's name, and that's actually a great thing. Because when you're a long snapper, anonymity is perfection.
But they know it now.
They know it now.
Through the book, The Long Snapper by Jeffrey Marx, thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about this inspirational book. And in fact, Jeffrey is in town for a good reason. He has a book signing at noon at the Barnes & Noble on 12th Street right here in downtown Washington. We'll be right back.